Welcome to the Aries Technology Guide to creating elevated prints. In this edition, we'll go through the creation of an allograph print from a 2D digital source image. To start with, take your color original and save it out as a 16-bit TIFF. Convert it to grayscale and consider the tones and what they will give you in terms of elevation at this point. If you have layers in your working file, then preserve them in the grayscale version. If you don't have layers in your file, it's worth the effort to isolate each element you want to elevate before starting. The goal here is to have, for example, the water ripples as a complete layer, so there are no gaps under the foreground reed elements. In many cases, the spot healing brush can create this missing imagery quite well. This will be of great benefit later. When softening the edges of the reeds on the layer above, we need to have wave pixels under that reed edge to blend to. After converting the color to grayscale, the frog body does not follow logical gray tones in terms of elevation, and the water has undulation, but the reflections of the reeds will cause lumpy areas on otherwise uniform waves. In this case, it's necessary to create a custom gray tone independent of these pixel values for the waves and the frog. We'll also add a gradient extending to the horizon. The gradient will gradually lift the water ripples up from the horizon to a high point at the bottom of the image. Add a black and white gradient layer over the water layer, with white being at the horizon and black at the bottom. Change the blend mode for the gradient layer to overlay to add the luminosity of the pixels onto the layer below. The same technique can be used to taper the sky to the horizon. Next up, however, are these reeds. They are the closest and therefore will be the darkest. Create masks to isolate them and apply a gradient that is darker than the surrounding elements. Adjust the mask feather setting to blend the edges to the layers below. To create a series of elevated layers for each leaf, apply a gray tone based on the desired depth for each leaf. This will create a series of levels building up from the base. Again, create the leaf shape with a mask that follows the silhouette. Adjust the feather settings and the mask properties to blend the edges of all these layers against each other and the base background. In order to create a smooth blend from the background gray tone to the center of the dark stem, duplicate the stem layer, reduce the mask in width, and darken the values of the gradient. Now set the feather level to blur the layer so it covers the center high point of the stem. It's a delicate balance to find just the right balance of blur on the foreground and background. The elevation-only text insert is an example of adding new elements that weren't in the original image and can add to the story inherent in the original composition. It has the layer style outer glow applied. In this case, the text layer was rasterized and a Gaussian blur applied to create a softer blend down to the sky tone. The sun rays have an outer white glow in the layer styles to blend the ray edges down, and a large soft edge white circle to push the sky tone down, which allows the sun shape to rise in the center. The frog character is separated into the body, arms, and leg layers. A combination of gradients and custom painting are combined via layer masks that have been feathered to soften the transition to each other and the background. For the lily pads, it's just a matter of isolating each onto a layer with a mask and applying a gradient of tones just darker than the surrounding pixels so that the leaves are elevated above the highest point in the waves. To see how the effect is progressing, we can save the color and grayscale 16-bit TIFFs and generate a point cloud preview with the Aries image to point cloud converter. View the preview point cloud in an app like Cloud Compare and iterate until you're confident the elevation is working without issues. With these techniques and your skills in Photoshop, you should have no problem generating a working grayscale file for your image.